Within UFO research circles today, Bluegill Triple Prime remains one of the most discussed Cold War nuclear tests. It sits right at the intersection of real classified weapons programs and authentic Navy recovery operations. There's also some unresolved interpretations of unusual footage. You all know what time it is. It's story time. This story is called Pacific Shadows. October 25th, 1962, at Johnston Atoll, or Johnston Island, in Central Pacific. The world was already close to war. In Washington, men in dark suits stood over maps of Cuba. In Moscow, missile crews waited for orders that could end civilization. American bombers sat fueled on runways across the Pacific, while submarines vanished beneath black ocean water, carrying nuclear weapons powerful enough to erase cities. But nearly 7,000 miles from the White House, another operation was underway. One that almost nobody would ever talk about. Under floodlights and armed guard towers, a Thor missile stood upright against the humid Pacific night. Technicians moved around it silently. Their badges were checked at every perimeter. Most of the men there had believed they were participating in a high-altitude nuclear weapons effects test. Officially, that was true. Unofficially, only a handful of intelligence officers knew why the launch date had suddenly become mission critical. 3 weeks later, long-range radar operations that were tracking Soviet launches over the Arctic had detected something that seemed impossible. An object. This object was not Soviet, and it was not American either. It moved without a ballistic arc, and it accelerated beyond known aerospace tolerances. Then, it disappeared above the Pacific. The anomaly appeared again 2 days later near classified missile tracking corridors west of Hawaii. Then again and again. By October, analysis concluded that whatever the object was, it appeared interested in nuclear weapons activity. The analysis conclusion triggered an emergency, compartmentalized program hidden inside. Its unofficial objective was to determine whether a high-altitude nuclear burst could disable an unknown aerial vehicle. This became known as Bluegill Triple Prime. The countdown began at 11:59 p.m. Inside the command bunker, cameras rolled, while radiation physicists monitored oscilloscopes, glowing green in the dark. Thor ignition confirmed. The missile rose violently into the sky, trailing white fire over the Pacific. 30 miles above Earth, the warhead separated. Then something happened. At first, the operators thought it was an instrumentation reflection. A second object appeared on radar near the descending payload. Its movements made no sense. It accelerated laterally, and it stopped instantly. Then it repositioned above the warhead itself. Several camera crews later reported seeing a faint, luminous object maneuvering near the detonation point seconds before the burst. At 48 kilometers altitude, the nuclear device detonated. The Pacific sky erupted into an expanding sphere of blue-white plasma. Electromagnetic energy flooded the upper atmosphere. X-rays burst outward through near-vacuum conditions far more efficiently than they could at sea level. For a fraction of a second, every sensor station on Johnston Island overloaded. Then, the radar operators noticed debris. Not from the Thor missile. It was something else. There was multiple glowing fragments falling westward into the Pacific Ocean. One Navy communications officer would later write in a classified log. He said, "The object fragmentation was inconsistent with the expected reentry package profile." This statement disappeared from later summaries. At dawn, recovery ships that were already positioned downrange changed their course. Among them were the USS Safeguard, the USNS Point Barrow, and USS Abnaki. Officially, they were retrieving instrumentation pods and contaminated debris. But the sailors aboard the recovery vessels quickly realized the operation was different. Helicopters had arrived carrying armed security personnel with no branch insignia. The divers were ordered below before sunrise. There was one petty officer who later claimed the crew was forbidden from looking over the recovery deck while the cranes lifted a massive tarp-covered object from the water. Other witnesses described metallic wreckage without any visible rivets, material that reflected light strangely, and a dark sphere partially fused from extreme heat. Radiation crews sealed portions of the ship immediately afterward. No photographs were ever released publicly. According to later rumors within naval intelligence circles, the 1962 incident was not the first encounter. The origins supposedly stretched back. This brings us to Operation Wigwam. 7 years earlier, the U.S. Navy detonated a nuclear weapon 2,000 feet beneath the Pacific Ocean, southwest of California. Officially, Wigwam studied submarine survivability against nuclear attacks. Unofficially, conspiracy theories later claimed that sonar operators detected unidentified submerged objects shadowing portions of the task force before detonation. One of the alleged accounts described high-speed underwater contacts with impossible maneuvering and an object descending vertically into deep ocean trenches immediately after the blast. There is no verified records that confirm those claims. But after Wigwam, Navy underwater surveillance programs expanded dramatically across the Pacific. By the late 1960s, a quiet theory had circulated among certain defense analysts, and that was that nuclear detonations acted like beacons. Some believed the extreme electromagnetic and X-ray output of atomic weapons attracted unknown surveillance crafts. Others had theorized the objects had monitored humanity's nuclear development since the first detonations. There was no consensus. There was only fragments. There was some radar logs, a lot of missing footage, and a lot of redacted pages. Within the next few decades, fragments of the footage slowly emerged from declassification archives. Most of it appeared ordinary to the public. Of course, missile launches, expanding nuclear fireballs, instrument readouts, electromagnetic measurements, and even some grainy tracking films from remote Pacific camera stations. But to the researchers who spent years studying the reels, frame by frame, several sequences started standing out. One classified tracking camera reportedly captured an anomalous, luminous object that was near the detonation zone seconds before the nuclear burst. Another film allegedly showed multiple descending fragments falling into a designated Navy recovery corridor. The official explanations attributed to the anomalies was missile debris, optical blooming, ionized plasma, or camera tracking distortions. But among certain Navy personnel present during the recovery operations, a whole different story circulated quietly for years. An account had surfaced in fragments during the late 1980s among former sailors who had served aboard the Pacific recovery vessels. According to the story, one of the Navy divers involved in the post-detonation extraction operation was lowered into irradiated waters roughly 12 hours after the Bluegill detonation. The diver's identity was never publicly confirmed. Unofficial accounts described him as an experienced diver in deep recovery operations. He was attached temporarily to a salvage support detachment and exposed to severe radiation conditions during retrieval procedures. According to the alleged witness statement, visibility underwater was poor at first due to the suspended debris and contamination clouds. But then the diver reportedly encountered something far larger than he had expected. It was not scattered wreckage, and it was not missile fragments. But what he described was this: a smooth metallic cylinder, enormous, partially embedded below the surface. The object allegedly lacked any visible seams, rivets, propellers, stabilizers, or any identifiable control surfaces. Its exterior was described as dark silver with sections appearing melted or heat-warped from extreme exposure. The diver later claimed the object emitted a faint humming vibration that, supposedly, could be felt through the water itself. The most disturbing portion of the alleged statement came next. The diver reportedly told medical personnel and intelligence debriefers that, while approaching the cylinder, he observed what appeared to be shadows moving inside. Humanoid silhouettes, tall and thin, and they were motionless at first. Then he could see them shifting slowly behind what appeared to be semi-translucent sections of the craft. According to later retellings of the story, the diver panicked and attempted to ascend prematurely after one of the figures allegedly turned right towards him. Within hours of extraction, the diver reportedly exhibited severe radiation sickness symptoms, disorientation, paranoia, insomnia, tremors, and episodes described by witnesses as psychotic shock. He was allegedly evacuated by helicopter to a military medical facility in Hawaii under heavy security escort. No public records confirming the incident have ever surfaced. Some researchers believed the story was fabricated through decades of rumor and embellishment, until public records began surfacing. And then others started to point towards scattered references in veteran discussions. These were mentionings of an emergency medevac, contaminated dive teams, and some unusually strict compartmentalization surrounding the recovery operation. According to persistent Navy rumors, the recovery itself had lasted nearly 18 continuous hours. The deck crew allegedly reported that multiple cranes were required to raise an extremely heavy object from the water under blackout conditions during the early morning hours. Witnesses later claimed that floodlights were shut down during portions of the operations. Some claim that armed security personnel established restricted deck zones, and that sailors, not directly involved, were confined below deck. There were several alleged accounts describing a massive cylindrical object covered immediately with layered tarps and radiation shielding material after being brought on board. One sailor would later supposedly describe seeing water pouring off something that didn't look built by the U.S. Another had claimed portions of the object appeared seamless, like molded metal. Others described a strong ozone-like odor and elevated Geiger counter readings near the containment area. According to rumors, portions of the ship were temporarily sealed due to the contamination concerns. There were no photographs from the alleged recovery that have ever been authenticated publicly. Despite the official silence among Navy personnel, the theory spread rapidly. Some believe the object was simply classified Soviet hardware, accidentally caught within the blast radius. Others suspected it may have been an advanced American aerospace platform operating under extreme compartmentalization. But a smaller group believed something far stranger had occurred. Their theory centered on the purpose of the fishbowl tests themselves. These high-altitude nuclear detonations released intense gamma radiation. It released X-rays, EMP shock waves, and massive ionization effects throughout the upper atmosphere. Certain personnel began speculating that the detonation had not merely tested weapons effects, but had accidentally, or intentionally, interacted with an unidentified craft already operating in the region. One rumor claimed intelligence analysts noticed anomalous radar tracks near multiple nuclear operations throughout the Pacific during the late 1950s and early 1960s. Another intelligence analyst alleged that unknown aerial objects frequently had appeared near missile tests but not rarely interfered directly. Bluegill Triple Prime, according to the theory, may have been the first time one entered the lethal radius of a high-altitude nuclear burst, whether by accident or by observation. By the early 1970s, nearly all official discussions regarding the recovery operation had disappeared behind layers of classification. Many records remained incomplete, and others were heavily redacted. Veterans who had attempted discussing the incident had allegedly found themselves warned by former superiors or intelligence personnel, and so the story survived mostly through the whispered recollections, through fragmented testimonies, through disputed footage, and rumors that passed between sailors who had spent long nights crossing the empty Pacific. To skeptics, it was Cold War mythology born from secrecy, radiation exposure, and fear. To believers, it was evidence that something unknown had fallen into the ocean during one of the most dangerous weeks in human history, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Somewhere beneath the surviving declassified pages of America's nuclear past, the unanswered questions still remain. The biggest unanswered question that remains is, what exactly did the Navy pull from the Pacific that night? Pacific Shadows was inspired by real Cold War nuclear operations and UFO theories surrounding them. The UFO-related elements, alleged extraterrestrial craft recoveries, and intelligence interpretations are speculative and for storytelling purposes. No verified public evidence proves that extraterrestrial vehicles were recovered during these operations. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have it douse, not what I'm about, have your cloud, it be raining now. I keep making sound, go another round, I'm legend bound, can't stop me now.
You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
Anything negative, cause I just wanna hear it out your mouth, yeah. Give me fuel, it's a tool that I use to go ahead and run my mouth, yeah. I take shots, I take loss, I make shots, I miss lots. That's how you get big box, you get yachts, you swing lots and pop off a big shot. I ain't done chasing, got big dreams, bigger things, impatient. Who's at the top think they need replacement? Who's at the top think I'm gonna erase them? Face it, I don't give up quick, I don't give up shit, I won't give up this. Cause I know that I want it, know that I'm on it, I'll make it, I promise.
You don't wanna fuck with me. A slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me